That's right back, Charlie. That's right.
People deluded, I'm back again.
Come on, Ian, bro. Come on.
People deluded, I'm back again. The best duo since William Saliba and Gabriel. Do you know what? F it, I'm being too humble since Dennis Bergkamp and Thierry Henry. How you doing, Alex, aka the different knock, man? Good to have you back, fella.
Very
even
well,
though you was late. Fines are in place.
You should find me. It's been a slow start this morning, but I'm very well, sir. How are you?
Minor, man, I'm good, man. You know, it's always nice to speak Arsenal with yourself. And obviously, as we move forward to the season starting, it's a lot to speak about. And I'm pretty sure you hear these comments on your YouTube channel. I definitely hear it on mine. People are like, what are Edu doing? What are Arsenal doing? We need to get a move on. We're not signing anyone. Since we last spoke, we've obviously signed Calafiori. We'll get onto the Merino business and that in general. The first thing I want to ask you is, obviously, it's the 2nd of August, actually. Happy birthday, Mum. I shouldn't even start when I say that. But how you feeling about Arsenal going into the season, bro?
Happy birthday, who?
Mum.
Oh, sure. Oh, happy birthday.
Yeah.
Mrs. Deluded Gooner. How am I in terms of where we are on the window?
In general, man, like all your sentiments about the football club at the moment.
Where am I at? I think so. We're 2 weeks away, aren't we? I think from United are playing. Is it Ipswich? I mean, that feels like just
something like that. Yeah, that's the first game of the season.
Skin away. That feels like something we used to have.
Listen, hopefully Omari Hutchinson's got something for them, man.
Yeah, I'd love it. But yeah, I'm feeling okay. I think we have to start with the window. I think what's happening. Here's my opinion on sort of what's actually going on. I think we're basically waiting for the sales to happen because I think it would be very hard to sell Eddie and Reece and Emile if we went and got absolutely everything done, because then clubs know that we need to sell. So my opinion on that is that we're waiting for a forward. I do find there's a sort of narrative creeping in of like, oh, it's just classic Arsenal fans who want a shiny new toy. Why are we so worried about this forward? No, we need a forward. And by the way, 2 months ago, we all wanted a forward. There is no Arsenal fan on planet Earth who didn't want a forward, but now...
And the December period last year as well.
And the December period. I feel like we've now slightly reverse engineered and we're going, well, if there's no links, I'll just be happy with it. And I don't get that at all. Maybe we can come on to that. I do think we'll sign a forward at some point.
Let us have your thoughts, man. Give us everything, bro.
Well, I said this on plug on the Different Knock live last night.
Make sure you're following.
Just skip forward if you listened to me rant already. But basically, like, I think what's happening is we're reverse engineering what I could be wrong, but I think everyone went into the window going, we need a forward. Now that you might have said that forward or this forward or maybe a winger or whatever, but I'm pretty sure if you did a poll of Arsenal fans and said, what do we need to do this summer? We need to sign a top forward. Fact. I think what's happened is we've looked around and we've gone, well, he looks like he's going there. He's not coming. Rafinha's going to stay at Barcelona. I don't think Sane would come. Sane's too injury prone. Osman would be too much money. Nico Williams is staying at Villa. Well, actually, we don't need one. And I'm going, no, we do need one. And I feel there's issues in every single transfer. There's no perfect transfer.
There's risk with everything, yeah.
There's risk with everything. There is no perfect transfer where it's like, oh, you want our best player? Yeah, have him. What do you want? 20 million? Yeah.
How much you spent for Declan Rice?
Exactly. So look, I'm not denying there's problems with every single forward on the market. There are of course issues. There's getting them out of their club. There's wage issues. There's fit issues. There's issues with every player. But if the choice is sign the perfect player who is the future of the position or do nothing, I reject that. I think it's a false dichotomy. There's got to be space for us to improve.
There's got to be a middle ground.
There's got to be a middle ground. I think we can do something. We can improve on Reece and Eddie, which surely in the market. So yeah, I think that's what's happening, and I think we will. I do. Like I'm not saying this because I'm impatient, but I'm a fan. I'm allowed to be. But I think the club will do something, and I think they're just waiting to get Reece and Eddie out to go and do something.
And I think that's great because obviously you said it there. I think everybody can see how good Kai Havertz has been. I think I think he's proved doubters wrong in it. I'm not saying he's the best thing since sliced bread, but it's fair to say he's found a place for himself. Gabriel Jesus, I'm backing him. I said I'll delete my YouTube channel if he doesn't get 15 league goals, and I'm getting a bit nervous, but that's for that's for another debate. I let myself get gassed with the fans, man. The fans on my live stream put me against the corner, and like Mikel Arteta says, you have to stand and fight, and I got ahead of myself. So let's just hope Gabriel Jesus allows me in that regards. I'm very nervous, but I agree with what you're saying in the sense of logically speaking, I think the club are receptive. I do think the club could make signings and have made signings without necessarily outgoing simultaneously. I hate to refer to football as a business, but it is an element of being a business, and the more money you can bring into the club to offset spending, it's always good. And again, as you know, just generally with the market, as you said, for a variety of reasons, there's a lot of moving parts. Players that could have been available and not available, players that were deemed as untouchable could be. There's a lot of other variables. But do you think that's an excuse to not get a striker? Because I do agree, if you look at the striker market, in particular the number 9, us common fans, as much as we might go on We Scout or watch all of these leagues and all of these kind of things, there's not a striker that 100% convinces. But I would add a caveat to that and say, someone like Gykeres, 2 years ago or 18 months ago, nobody was kind of screaming his name. Sporting took a chance on him, and look at him. And where you look at our scouts, of course, you can't just sign everyone, the better we're getting. But do you think with our scouts and the resources available to them, that they could find a striker, whether it's an emerging talent, maybe a potential rotationary option, not necessarily a ceiling raiser, as you like to say?
We have a skills gap in the forward areas that is way bigger than anywhere else.
Let us know what that is as well, man.
So in the defensive areas, we have aerial duel monsters. We have 1v1 guys. We have people who can come inside and go outside. We don't the only thing we don't have a strong foot overlap on the left-hand side, but we do on the right-hand side. We have players who can switch the ball. Like anything you want from a defender, we have pretty much, or I'd say apart from maybe the strong foot overlap on the left. And we've even just got our version of John Stones. So I think we've got a really complete set of profiles. In the midfield, when everyone's fit and available and when everyone's firing, we have lost something with Smith Rowe, I think, on the sort of the combiner on the edge of the box.
Oh, Smith Rowe praise from you. Crazy. But go on.
We've lost something. I didn't necessarily say we shouldn't have lost it. But yeah, we've got one of the best defensive anticipators in the world in Declan Rice. We've got people progressive passes, metronome. We've got everything. In the forward areas, we don't have elite pace. We don't have one of the quickest players in the world. We don't have, I would say, a level of box, someone who can create proper separation in the box and like a selfish gene type player. I don't think we have someone who does their best work on the transition. I don't think we have someone who can force the issue as a player in terms of not just scoring goals, but sort of going, this game needs a goal and get out of my way. I'm going to go score that goal. The kind of force of nature type player.
A bit like what Alexis used to do for us, folks.
100%. I don't think we have the aerial ability maxed out yet. So there's a lot, and there's other areas as well. There's lots of areas. Now, can you improve that all in one window with one player? No, of course you can't. But okay,
that great.
If we can't do that all in one player, let's just not do anything. No,
and that'd be crazy. that would be silly, really and truly.
It's a bizarre mindset, I think. So for me, it's like going, okay, so what's on the market now? If you're asking me, I look at Victor Osimhen. That is the player that I look at, and I say that is someone who would massively improve us in the channels, someone who can create separation in the box, someone who's got 5-10 goals in them with their head a season. I think from clip balls from the channel, from the half space, whatever it might be. I think he's someone who is a force of nature type player. I don't think he's the best on the transition. I think he's the best in build-up. Yes, those are concerns, but you fix certain issues, and that's an upgrade on Eddie Nketiah. So I'd go and do that. Now, you might not be able to do that. Fine. Okay, here's 15 other names. Rafinha, Isak, Ivan Toney, Marcus Rashford, Leao, Sane, Jared Bowen, Viktor Gykeres. I'm sure I'm forgetting people. I could
throw Vlahovic out there, really.
Vlahovic. I can make you a list. We can't just keep saying no because they're not the perfect player. We have to do something. And if you can't improve, if you can't do that, if you can't make the future of the position Declan Rice type signing, okay, do you just not improve? You just don't do anything? There's
We'll
some
be in
people
trouble.
who are saying, "Oh, we're a shiny new toy. We don't have the money." I don't buy that. I don't buy that.
We do have well, I don't know what we've got, but you'd imagine, as Arsenal have shown, whether it was 65 million last year for Kai Havertz or 100 million for Declan Rice, or even when we bought David Raya, really, if we're 100% convinced by something, we will kind of do it. That's my gripe, the 100% convinced, because kind of what you're saying, obviously you can do your scouting and all of those kind of things, but there's always going to be an element of risk. And I think everybody can see in our team, I wouldn't quite say it's cherry picking, because Arteta has said we've got one of the smallest squads, but it's not like previous years where you could argue whether we do it or not. We need about 6-7 players. It's about, improving the starting 11. We'll get on to Calafiori, but I think his signing, provided he stays fit, brings a lot of stability. Mikel Merino will get onto that, but if he plays on the left-hand side, there's stability. And I would like an inside forward, really and truly. I think if you can't, I don't know how you feel, and let me know, but I would love a striker and a winger. I don't think that's feasible. I'm prepared to have either one. I don't think we can have not bringing in anything, because I know we got 91 Premier League goals, but I do think we need a kind of booster in that. We're going a bit left with it, but where the Champions League's concerned, I think we all saw last season, you probably need someone with an element of stardust within them. So it is where it is. If we could get a winger or a striker, let's not get hung up on names, but if it was a thing where there's a striker that 90 to 80% convinces and a winger that 80 to 90% convinces, which one are you going for?
Personally, I would go with a centre forward. The reason being, I think Jesus can play out there.
That's
and
true.
I think it's not about having a backup for Saka. It's having a rotation option for Saka. And I think Jesus, in terms of the ball retention, he's not as good, obviously, out of the Saka. But in terms of the 1v1 stuff, in terms of the pace, in terms of the directness, in terms of, I think the technical level to receive and maintain the ball in those areas, I think he's up there. I don't think he's anywhere near Saka, but you can't be. It's very hard. And I think he can also play on the left. I do feel we'd be short in numbers, especially if Reece went. But I think we could lose Eddie and sign a centre forward and be fine if we had Reece for both sides. I don't think that would be best for Reece's development. But then if we lost Reece and we signed a sort of a prospect winger, a 20, 21-year-old or something from, some club, and we all go, yeah, I know him. I actually watched him last year. Then
you got to love us defense, man.
Oh yeah, watched him for years. Yeah. Wickalaka. Yeah.
Be like, I watched him in the under 18s and so on and so forth, man.
Actually, I scouted him. So,
Oh, man.
No, I think probably to fix most of I still feel like we miss a reference. Like I was watching the preseason game the other day, and I was like, if we had a reference centre forward, look, Havertz is good, but he can't. He's good as a reference in the air, and he can run in behind, but he can't pin defenders in the same way. I think if we had a Victor Osimhen, that the amount of tactical flexibility we'd have and our level would go up so quickly. So I'd probably go centre forward.
Do you think Osimhen's feasible? Because again, obviously his future is subject to speculation. 1 minute he's going Chelsea, then Paris Saint-Germain. Actually, before we've gone and made this video, he's been linked with Arsenal again. I would say for me, I think he's available, but not available. Available in that clearly, they want to sell him. I think Napoli have kind of sat there and thought, although it's early in the market, clubs have other things to do. They've got players that they need to move on, so on and so forth. People will come in for him, but I think Napoli have probably puffed out their chest a bit too high, and everyone's gone, do you know what, the fees you're asking for is ridiculous. But he is available. Do you think that is something that could be done? Again, it's probably contingent on outgoings with the Eddies, with the Nelsons, with the Smith Roses, and so on and so forth.
I would love it. Look, there's going to be some people who say, he's not efficient enough in front of goal. I probably agree with you. I think he probably makes a few too many chances that he misses, but equally he's making chances. So, that's
what a striker should be doing.
Exactly. And he has so many of the physical traits that I think if you could work on his, and again, players develop, you can put them on the training ground and you work with them every day and you go, right, okay, when you're in this position, you need to be hitting across your body for whatever it might be. But I do think it's feasible. He's got 2 years left on the deal. I don't think he's played in Napoli's preseason. They want to ship him out on loan and get Lukaku.
That's crazy.
And look, the club might not like him. The club might not be convinced. Fine, but I think there's a sort of with a lot of these, with the Leaos and probably the Gykereses and those types of signings, people go, well, it's not feasible. We can't do it. So, okay, well, good luck in life.
Yeah.
Luck
Being
in
hit by
life.
any sort of
When
roadblock and
you
you're not
want
wanting to overcome it.
Yeah, when you want something, you'll just go, oh, well, we can't do it. What? That's the point of negotiation. You go in, you go, I know you don't want to sell him, so how do we do this?
Let's have that sort of trade-off. You mentioned his name, Gykeres, man, because he seems to be the one that we're kind of linked with, allegedly Sporting and saying, you know what, we're open to negotiations. Rumors and what's going on in the world of football, as you know, is different things, but they're saying 60 odd million euros. You convinced? You want having him? What would your feelings be with that?
We watched him for the Cannon podcast, right?
Follow that, people.
We watched him for that. I haven't watched him outside of that, so I don't want to talk too much. But I wasn't convinced by his build-up. I think he's maybe exactly what we need in terms of
that's mad harsh, Alex, man.
It's the playlist I watched on Wisecout, whether it's right or wrong. I think it was it's a bit unsophisticated. He's taking like 4 or 5 touches, or it's one touch. I don't see the brain that like a Kai Havertz has, but I could be. I'm happy to watch more, and I could be wrong. I think he's very selfish, which we might need. Like in terms that's not necessarily a bad thing. When you have a group of forwards who are very facilitative and all want to pass to one another, you might need to go and add someone who's like, no, just give me the ball. I'm gonna do it.
I want to be top goal scorer, man.
Yeah, that might be something we need to do. That
balance is key, though.
Yeah, and that might not be what Mikel wants, but also he could change that. Like I do think it's just a brief tangent. I was watching.
No, go ahead, man. As many tangents as you want, mate. That's why you're here.
I was watching Granit Xhaka highlights the other night because I was
after his comments, you're watching them.
Yeah. That was funny. I was watching highlights of him, and he's for Leverkusen. He's so positive. He just has a shot. Like he's so direct, and he wasn't that way for us. So I do feel there's an element of Mikel's what he wants in the final third. So adding in that player, I don't know whether he'd want that type of player, nor if that player came in, they would play in the way that we have expected them to. I think with Gykeres, I think it's about the price for me. If they're willing to do something for like 60, 70 mil, I think I'd be interested. I'd need to look at the player more, but I'd be interested. If it's 100 mil,
no, forget that.
I think you can get better value. And I honestly, I'd rather like, as I say, do something else. Sign a £30 million prospect and then wait for as long as we do.
I'm on that as well.
This idea that we're just gonna go, no, actually, no one was just gaslighting everyone. No, I wasn't. No one was saying we wanted a forward. Wait, you were saying you wanted a forward in the summer? No one was saying that. Man.
I can't lie, us Arsenal fans are special with that regards, man. Like the complete
no
360s are crazy.
That's great. I literally don't recall that, so I don't know why you say that.
Because that actually happens as well. That's why it's so funny, because that's actually what our fans do, man. And I completely agree with you. And the theme that I keep hearing you say, and I'm so happy you're saying it because I agree with it, we can't do nothing. Like, we can't do things for the sake of it. And again, signings can go left, but I think Mikel Arteta and Edu, they've shown that if we can't sign someone, we won't sign someone, or we'll find people that we're 100% convinced in and have backup options in that regard. So I have an element of confidence. And while I don't know Edu or Arteta, I mean, it's the 2nd of August. We're starting to take shape. People are leaving the club. Obviously, Calafiori's here. I promise people will get onto Merino, but it seems like he could be arriving. And there's probably a couple of other twists and turns.
You've caught this illness. No one can pronounce his name.
Merino.
George on my co-host, he just can't do it.
All right, pronunciation, please.
It's the tabs and the pronunciations.
How do you actually say it? Like
Merino, like marine, like the water. Merino, yeah.
Yeah, man. Shout out Mikel. We'll just call him Mikel for today. Shout out Mikel. Double M. It is what it is in that regards, man. What else did I wanted to ask you in relation to the transfer market? Obviously, Nico Williams would have been a dream. He's obviously a bit like Calafiori, had a good domestic season, done what he's doing in the Euros. As you said, it seemed like he's going Barca. Now it seems like he's staying at Bilbao. PSG and Chelsea, as well as us, have thrown their way into the ring. I hope we can get him, but let's park him off for a sec. Pedro Neto, is he someone we could potentially spin the block on? Because I know the injuries, it's a massive concern, but I'm having him, man. I think you can play off the left. I think you can deputize / provide competition for Saka. I don't think we're going to sign a right winger, even like with Rafinha. I don't think we're going to sign a winger that is levels or better with Saka, that genuinely keeps him out the side. But I do want a versatile wide man, because I'm a bit different to you in that I feel if we're bringing in an inside forward, I more want to see one on the left-hand side primarily. That's why I would like Pedro Neto and Nico Williams, because they can obviously play on the right. But I just feel it's open season in the front three. I think Saka's place is solidified. Kai Havertz, I like what he's doing, and I'm not saying to alienate him, but you could evidently sign a striker and upgrade there. And as much as I like Martinelli, there's too much volatility in his performance. I like Trossard, but it seems like Trossard, I want to pick my words wisely, but it doesn't feel like Trossard is in Mikel Arteta's immediate first team thoughts, because it did take a lot for him really and truly to starting last season, to the point where you couldn't leave him out. You really couldn't. Like, even you go back to the December period, the same team was going out there. Now, you could call that insanity, but to me, that tells you a manager, that tells me who my manager not necessarily rates, but that's who he rates, because he's playing the same team. You put a gun to the guy's head, that's the team he thinks can go out there and get him 3 points. So where are you at with Neto, man?
He's got injury issues, so just don't bother.
I knew he was going to say that, man. The injuries concern me, man. Many people say he wouldn't play as much, so he might get a rest.
Yeah, I don't.
If that makes sense.
I need to. Yeah, I trust the strength and conditioning people at clubs way more than fans. So I don't know. I think if Arsenal are willing to take the risk, that means they've had injury reports, and that, I think often what happens is like players will. If you can show me a story of like basically what happened is he had this injury and then it meant this happened and then he had instability on his knee and then he was rushed back for that game and then what happens from the outside is always injury prone. But actually, if you can show he's not, it's just the story. He was mismanaged and then he did get unlucky and then he had
timeline of events.
If you can show me a timeline, because often what happens is, I think, especially as fans, we go on Transfermarkt, we look at injury history, we go, no, I'm not doing it.
So 50 days, 100 days. Yeah. We're guilty of it because we put it in our vids as well.
Yeah. Well, and the thing with Calafiori, right? It's like, he had that. If you didn't know he had that horrible, basic, almost career-ending challenge, you wouldn't know, okay, all the knock-on effects of the following seasons that he would be having muscular issues.
People even say he's injury prone, which is not necessarily true.
So I honestly don't know on the Pedro. I hear he's injury prone, but I need to ask more about that. So I'll speak about the player. I like him. I think he's very direct. Obviously, we were interested. I think it was in the summer of 2022. I think he's someone who is willing. I love players who, like, their first thought is always to go forward, but I will always caveat that I don't know if Mikel does.
Yeah, you can't always do that. Yeah, you are right.
And if that's the problem is we're transposing what he's done at Wolves onto our team. I don't think he'd do that. I think he'd be in more situations where he'd be asked to retain the ball, to recycle. Do I love him for that? Not really. So I'd be interested in someone, I don't know, a little bit more like a Rafael, who I think people worry about him from a pressing perspective or a technical perspective. I think that could be fixed.
I think he's overrated.
Fair enough. I think
he's good.
If you look at that 5-yard, but so actually, I was going to say sorry for the tangent, but no, I'm not sorry for the tangent. Salah Ad-Din, I wrote about him on X, and I stand by this. I think you basically, to play at Arsenal right now, and to play at any of the top clubs, you need to be like you need to have an unbelievable technical base level, right? But also be top 3-5 in the world at something, a skill, not necessarily your position, but a skill. So, for example, Declan Rice is one of the best tacklers in the world, like in terms of anticipating and tackling the ball. In terms of ball retention out wide, Saka is top 3, top 1, top 2 in the world, right? So our best player, William Saliba, in terms of dealing with 1v1 moments, right?
Some of our fans would say aura for Saliba in terms of that top stuff you're saying.
And Calafiori.
Yeah. It's a bit weird, but it's cool.
But in terms of taking the ball out from the back, I think Calafiori could develop into that. Do you know what I mean? So I think Salah Ad-Din has a really good technical base, and I really like the player, but I don't look at him and go, well, you've got that skill that is no one else has in our squad, and I think that could be your superpower, if you want to call it that. I think with Leao, and I'll come back to Neto in a second. I think with Leao, that burst he has, the first fight, the way he can get away from his marker from a standing start, I've not seen anything like it in years. So I think you can use that to build something around him. I think with Neto, he's very good technically. I think there's a lot that he can do, but I don't look at him and go, okay, your ball striking is one of the best in the world, or your pace is one of the best in the world. Like, he's brilliant and a brilliant all-round player, but for me, he hasn't got one thing that I go, yes, that I can build around.
That's fair.
Martinelli's efficiency in the box, when given space and time and on a right run, as we saw in 22-23, can be one of the best in the world. So you can build around that. Do you know what I mean?
You said it there though, but with Liao, there's not always going to be time and space. And I could caveat that and say with Neto, I think there's more diversity in how he plays. I think he's better in tight spaces, if I'm honest. I like Liao. I think if you could improve his decision making, he'd be a good player. I just feel a lot of the things I say about Marcus Rashford applied to Rafa Liao. But if he signed for Arsenal, I wouldn't be against it. I think we'll both agree, unless we wake up and something crazy's happened, Rafa Liao to Arsenal's a non-starter. I wanted to ask you as well about potential outgoings, man. Now, Smith Rowe, it seems that he's basically a Fulham player. What do you make of the fee? What do you make of his outgoings? Do you think it was a thing where Arsenal sat there and said, you know what, you've got 2 years left on your deal, we're going to sell you? Or do you think it's a thing where Arteta said, you know what, I like you, but the role that you probably want in the team, I can't give it to you right now at this moment in time. He said, I want to leave. We've got a decent record fee. I think that's Fulham's record fee, apologies. So where are you at with Smith Rowe's exit, man, first of all?
If you're listening,
I want to cry.
Yeah, there's obviously the emotional connection which people have with him, which I completely get. I will say, like, just from a personal level, I never quite had that same connection with him as I do with Saka. But like, I completely get. What you say?
You snake.
Oh,
what do you mean you didn't have a connection? What do you mean you didn't have a connection like that with Smith Rowe? Like, what do you mean? It was empty. Like, this ain't the way it's meant to end.
I don't know. I always preferred Saka. Like, I was like, Smith Rowe, yeah, he's there.
You're that parent that's picking, favorite sons and daughters. I love them both, man.
I'm picking favorites, yeah.
And my adopted Haylender and Martinelli as well. We love them all the same way, man.
Yeah, like I always just had a slight preference for Saka, like right from the start when they were coming through. Yeah. So it just sort of slowly did that. And we'll come to the sort of that sort of thing on the deal. I think it's a brilliant deal. I think for a player who's played something like 790s in 2 years, who has 2 years left on the deal.
Couldn't tell you when he last scored either.
I couldn't say when he last scored. He's had some brilliant moments, but realistically on the deal, I don't think there's an issue on the deal aspect of things. And there might be someone who says, "Oh, he's a brilliant player." Okay, fine. Here's your choice: £35 million, whatever it is, £32 million for Smith Rowe, or do you want him playing 38 league games next season?
Which is not going to happen. It's not going to happen. You can't bet on that.
You don't. You might rate the talent, but no one wants to play him.
Exactly. So, he's a squad player at that, unless something crazy happens.
Yeah. I think on the sort of emotional connection side of things, I do want to say, and I said this recently on a podcast. I'm not like, I don't want to play down what Smith Rowe did. Smith Rowe was brilliant in that, when he came into the team, he absolutely changed our fortunes in December 20.
Saved Arteta's job. I'm running with that narrative.
But he didn't.
No, he didn't. But I like the narrative. The narrative doesn't have to be factual.
And what's happening is there's people who I think, from what I see, is people go, right, I love the fee for Smith Rowe is great. I'm happy with it. Best of luck to him. Sad he's leaving, but whatever. He should have had a chance. He saved Arteta's job. I feel like you're clutching at straws to hold on to an emotional connection to a player. Yep. I get we like the player, but I just look. He was brilliant in that period. But by the way, Bukayo Saka scored in that game. Martin Odegaard came in January and was part of the turnaround as well. Like, he was brilliant in that
another
game.
Player people weren't convinced on initially.
Absolutely, but I think we retrospectively apply narratives. And look, again, this isn't me taking away from what Smith Rowe was brilliant. He was really important.
It's the cold-hearted truth you're saying.
But that was 4 years ago, and we finished 8th.
Yeah. Now we're trying to win a title. There's no time for emotions and sentiment. And even I'm saying this as the head of the Smith Rowe fan base. It's like, I like the guy. I don't mean this in a disingenuous way, but I want him to have the best time at Fulham, to the point where we at least, or me and you as content creators, at least make a video and say, did we make a mistake? I wish him the best. Hope he plays first team football, etc., etc. I do think there was opportunities last season to utilize him and use him a bit better. And I think last season was different in the sense of he did have injuries, but he was kind of fit for the majority of it. Now, I have no gripes with Mikel Arteta not using him, because, as you said, if we're 8th, there's inconsistent form with our players, then maybe other people get opportunities. But we're fighting for a league title, and 9 times out of 10, the players that are out there are doing their jobs. For whatever reason, it felt like Smith Rowe off the left-hand side, that weren't really a thing last season. If we look in midfield in the 8th year, you could caveat that and say, if you give him a run, it is what it is. But is he a stronger option generally in midfield than a Jorginho, than a Thomas Partey? Evidently not. So, and obviously Declan Rice is there. So we don't have time for sentiment really. And sometimes it's like being in a relationship. Some people are going to be in relationships and get married for 50 odd years. Some are going to be for 4, 5, 6 years, and then they're naturally going to grow apart. And I personally think, crucially, Mikel Arteta said, I genuinely think he said to Smith Rowe, as you've seen is the case, I want you to stay. I utilize you, but the role that you're going to have in this team is not what you think it's going to be. Obviously, you can prove me wrong. You can force your way into the lineup and stuff, but this is the reality. And again, I think fans, as you said there, it is an emotional thing. I think when you remove the emotion, you could have kept Smith Rowe in this squad, but realistically, Smith Rowe's kind of in the Fabio Vieira boat. Fabio's going to stay. I'm going to bring in Moreno, got Thomas Partey, got Jorginho, got Declan Rice. It's not feasible. Now, maybe if we didn't sign a wideman, kind of what you said earlier with Reece Nelson, that is an extra body. But Smith Rowe can't afford to have a season here, and I've like he's had. And again, 2 years left on his deal for the number 10. For, as you said, you know, well, some people say save the season and all of those kind of things. The writing's been on the wall, man, and it's needed to happen. And again, where you look through our squad, generally, I wouldn't say there's not sellable assets, but the players that have been linked with moves away, there's not really sellable assets. Smith Rowe has a chance to bring finances in, so I can't complain. What do you make of Eddie Nketiah to Marseille as well? Because it's 16 million euros for me, unacceptable. I don't think Arsenal are going for it. I genuinely think you need to get 25, 30, regardless of what people have to say about Eddie. But where are you at with Eddie?
I think there's reports, I could be wrong, that they've put in a bid now for, you know, something that comes up to about £27 million.
Eddie, get on the plane.
Yeah, I could be wrong. Let me look that up. But I'm pretty sure the last thing I saw was, let me see if I can find it. Here we go.
No pressure.
So this is from, whether you believe this or not is up to you, but you know, someone is saying, some former BBC News and now Team Talk says Eddie Nketiah is close to joining Marseille after the club made an improved offer to Arsenal worth £26 million, which includes £3 million in add-ons, while the player's been offered huge wages. The transfer is described as imminent by Team Talk sources. Yeah, I think that's, I mean, I buy that. We'll see. Maybe by the time the video comes out, we'll have more information. But I'm just looking up his contract situation as well. I think
5 year deal, isn't it?
Well, he's got 3 years left. I think for someone with 3 years left, Haylender, pure profit with specifically with the wages he's on as well. Because remember, he's on about 100 grand a week. I think it's fine. I don't think it's like the best deal in the world, but I think it's understandable, especially when selling. If we were selling in the Premier League, I'd be looking at more like 35, 40. If we were selling to Brentford or whatever, like,
anyone really,
I'd want more. But selling abroad, it's a different thing, and you can't just conjure up interest from the Premier League if there's no interest. Yep. So you have to do so again. If you can't do the perfect thing, don't do nothing. Do something. I think this is fine. I think 27 million seems about right, and I can't imagine we're allowing Reece to talk to, just to return to what we said earlier. I can't imagine we're allowing Reece to talk to Leicester. I don't think that's going ahead, but we allowed him to talk to them. We're allowing Eddie to talk to Marseille. We're allowing Smith Rowe to go, and we're not going to do anything. I just can't. I can't buy that.
You can't fathom it because I do think Mikel Arteta. For me, as much as I rate him and how he's assembled and built the squad, in particular our defensive options, when he comes out mid-season like last year and say we've got one of the smallest squads, if I'm praising you for how you've assembled it, then I have to ask questions as to how that's happened. But as you said there, logically it doesn't make sense. If nothing more, these players are bodies. It doesn't make sense to let them go. Bearing in mind, we're competing on all fronts. The Champions League format's changed. There's now extra games. There's got to be big players that are coming in, whether we are agreeing that they're good enough, whether they are good enough, whoever these players are, that's another thing. And I'm not just saying Arteta and Eddie have a plan for no reason. It's just, it doesn't make sense to get the club to this point with everything we've done and the way we've changed the sentiment to stop now, to mess around now. So I've always said, personally, I'll reserve judgment until the window's closed. That doesn't mean day in, day out, my opinions won't fluctuate. For instance, I've changed my thoughts into central midfield. I always used to say I want 2 central midfielders. I kind of still believe that, but I feel if you get Moreno in, you've got Partey and Jorginho and Rice, we can maneuver with that. Again, there are, Odegaards and Fabio Vieiras, exactly, and players that can play there. And I don't want to see it, but Kai Havertz. So we can kind of move with that. What do you make of Nelson, though? Because that's the one I'm kind of looking at, and kind of what you said in that we need to sell players. Nelson really and truly can't give a monkeys about what Arsenal are doing because it's come out that he wants to leave, so it's really irrelevant. But from a business point of view, he is a body. Whether that's best for Nelson is another thing. But it doesn't seem like the Leicester thing is forthcoming. He was linked with West Ham. It seems like that's gone down the toilet. What kind of fee is acceptable for Nelson for you? Because I'm saying 10 to 15, even though I think he's worth a lot more than that. But he's not really a player like that for us.
I think he's looked really good in pre-season, but I think this is kind of what happens. This is what happens every time with Nelson. If it's within the Premier League, I want something between 20 and 25 million, and if it's outside, I think I'd be okay with 15 million or more. Would I? I obviously want more, but again, it's like being realistic. I think I think with Reece as well, like in the midfield, because we have Ethan Nwaneri and Miles Lewis-Skelly, I'm comfortable with one in, one out because I think there's kind of support there, and I'd maybe even it depends how comfortable we feel with Fabio Vieira, but I'd maybe be comfortable with a loan deal in a January for someone, that sort of thing, as in Fabio Vieira leaving the club if it hasn't worked out for him, and sticking with Ethan and Miles because I do think they're ready. I think with those two sort of managing their minutes and stuff, I think they could be brilliant. Also, I think Miles can spend time at left back as well. But in the forward areas, I think without Reece, and Eddie, we're low on numbers. That's what Saka, Jesus, Havertz, and Martinelli. And Havertz was meant to be a central midfielder.
Exactly. And you're relying on Jesus to stay fit, and
you're on Jesus to stay fit, and you're relying on Saka playing another 4,500 minutes. And Martinelli didn't have the best season last year. And yes, okay, we were all excited by the Havertz centre forward project, but we have a 12-game sample, and it was brilliant. I'm not saying it wasn't, but we haven't got 5 years of it like we do with Saka.
Exactly. There's 38 Premier League games as well.
Yeah, exactly. So I think we will need some numbers in the forward areas. So, and the reason I say that is I think when Eddie goes, it sounds like he's going. I think we view that as like a second, third choice striker. Maybe we can just get through the season without it. I bet people at Arsenal think we're losing a big name. Eddie Nketiah is massively rated at Arsenal. He's massively rated. He's massively trusted. He started Premier League games last season. Like he's a body, as you said, quite simply put. He's a body, and the luxury to have that body in the squad is something we're going to lose. I think it's beyond the body. I think we may view him a certain way, but within Arsenal, and what we're doing is trying to predict Arsenal's moves. Within Arsenal, I think they view him as a really, really top player. So I think they will be saying, if we're losing that striker, we need something else because we can't go in with less numbers than we did last time. So
doesn't make sense.
In that case, they might be asking Reece to stick around for another year. I don't know, because they might be saying, well, we can't, if we're going to go out and try and do a deal, we can't risk losing another wide player, Reece, if we can get this guy in and we can do a deal for you and get somebody else in, then maybe you can go. But I think Reece, if we can't get a good price for him, he might be kept around. He might be just the last piece of it might be a deadline day type, Reece goes out and someone comes in.
And I think we have to, with Nelson, it'll be kind of, I'm kind of looking with keen eyes because I won't quite say I thought he was one of the first out the door, but it felt like where you look at Smith Rowe, Eddie and Nelson, especially when we literally just landed in America, it looked like something imminent based on reports. And it just shows reports and what's actually happening in the real world of football are different things. But it felt like Nelson, that could advance very quickly. Now, for whatever reason, Leicester are not keen on whatever deal that is. Obviously the West Ham deal has gone away. Many people sit there and say Arsenal are trying to, overprice their players. But what I would say is I like it. As you said earlier, it's negotiations. It's not necessarily how good or bad a player is. It's what you can hustle. It's what you can negotiate. We've made Fulham spend, I think that's their transfer record for Emile Smith Rowe, for a player that's got 2 years left. That, as me and you could, we can't remember the last 10 games he's played, much less the goals that he scored. I'm for that. Eddie Nketiah, I think he just needs to play. I don't think he's anything to write home about, but I do like Eddie Nketiah. I think he's got one of the best mentalities at this club. I think he takes everything on his chin. I think he's well aware and self-aware of where he is in the squad. And I think we all saw in the All or Nothing. And he's obviously 25. Now, I'm not saying Eddie Nketiah is going to leave and be amazing, but he's 25. He's entering the peak years. And let's be honest as well, Marseille will get him if he does like a somewhat Balogun-esque kind of loan. They'll sell him back to England for a handsome profit. So I like the fact that we're kind of doing better at negotiations. Where you at with Aaron Ramsdale? Because I'm starting to believe if he is to leave, it's probably on loan. His valuation in reports fluctuate. It's everything from 30 to 50. I don't want to make a loss on Ramsdale. I don't think we should. I know we've kind of harmed our own asset because we brought in Raya and stuff, but people are forgetting, I don't think he'll take Pickford's goalkeeping spot. But there was a point where there was calls for Ramsdale to be the number one. He got the PFA nominations. It wasn't quite the defensive statistics of last season, but the previous year he did very good. So I want to see decent money for him. I don't feel that when you see Nottingham Forest and Wolves actually linked with him, and who else, Southampton, I don't think they're going to give us a transfer fee and give him 100 odd grand a week wages. But could it be a thing where we loan him out and he puts himself in the shop window?
Yeah, I think, look, goalkeeping situations change quite a lot. And, you look at what's happening at Chelsea, injuries and stuff. It's one of those positions where it feels like there's some clubs who have Edison, Alisson, that's sorted for years. And there's some clubs who are just constantly changing goalkeepers.
Yep.
I would hope that one of those clubs is able to take Ramsdale. But if they can't this summer, we're in a strong position with the contract. I think he's got 3 years left. He's
got a decent amount. He signed a new deal not too long ago before, obviously, what we're seeing now.
Exactly. Let me look that up so I'm not waffling. I think let me just, I've got it on Transfermarkt here. Yeah, so his contract expires in 2026, but we've got an option. So I think what we might say is, okay, well, we're going to exercise the option and send you out on loan for this year, hopefully to a Premier League club, and then sell you next summer. And I think we would probably get more for him next summer after a year in the Premier League, after another year showing. If he went to a Wolves on loan, he'd kill it. He'd be unbelievable. He'd be so good.
On Match of the Day all the time.
Of course he would. And he'd love it. He'd be happy. We'd be happy, whatever. I don't think we should sell Ramsdale for peanuts right now. Basically, I'm in the position where we hold all the cards.
For once. Facts.
For once. We have a 3-year deal with a goalkeeper who we can say, look, mate, sit on the bench. You're going to be our second choice.
You're nicer than me. If I'm Mikel Arteta, God forgive me, but all managers are liars. I'm genuinely sitting there to Ramsdale for another year based on if Eddie's telling me it's not going to happen, I'm lying to him. I'm saying, you're going to play ahead of Raya. Your chance is coming. Raya's looked a bit shaky, you got to be a liar. The minute the window closes, boy, you got to shut up and get on with it.
I'm not sure I'd do that, but I mean,
you got to lie, man. Because I'm not going to lie to you.
Be different.
I'm not going to lie to you, bro, man. As much as I want players to be happy and you don't want unhappy players and things like that, at the end of the day, we need a squad. We need to win things. I don't really care. I really don't care.
What I take is, I think I don't want to get worse. So I don't want us to sell Rams or lose Ramsdale and then have Tommy.
You've got a job, do it
as second choice. Do you know what I mean? So if we're gonna put Ramsdale on loan, that's because I want to believe in our second choice option. So if Ramsdale needs to be second, obviously it's not the perfect situation, but it's up to him. Honestly, it's up to him to come in every day and go, look, I'm going to show to you. I want to prove to you that I want to go out on loan in January, or I want to show myself in the cups or whatever it might be. He would get games at Arsenal if he stayed. He would play if it might be a situation where he comes to an agreement and said, look, you'll play every FA Cup and Carabao Cup game up to here, and you go on loan in January. And he might say, do you know what? Because there's no one in for me, other than the Championship or abroad. I want a Premier League move. Then
get your agent to do his job. If not, shut up, keep training, and let's be a bit harsh. I want to ask you about as well Kiwior, because he's someone that obviously we've yet to speak about Calafiori, but Kiwior is someone that hasn't had any official bids, but it seems like there's a market for him in comparison to Zinchenko, which is a bit odd. I don't know where you're at. Which one would you rather sell? Because it all depends on Mikel Arteta, but it feels like from a business point of view, there's more of a market for Kiwior. I don't think he was amazing against Liverpool, but I think probably only Odegaard and, Miles Lewis-Skelly were the ones that grabbed my attention. But I think he was okay. But the reality is for him, Calafiori further pushes him down the line. The one kind of hope for him is that Tomiyasu's got an injury. What do you expect to happen with Kiwior? Do you anticipate he's one that will leave or force the issue, or do you think he stays?
I think this will just depend on the market with Kiwior and Zinchenko. I think we could get through to January with a slightly bloated squad. I think there's one.
I'd rather that than have a thin squad.
100%. But I think this might be a sort of Kiwior heads off on loan in January type situation. I'm going off Kiwior a little bit. I can't lie.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I prayed for times like this, man. Yes.
I think he was good at the time, but we've moved on again. We've got better again.
Nah, it's like the ugly kid in
And-
school that finally gets a girl to chat to him. It's a charity case, man. Forget that, man. Nah, I like Kiwior, but he's a charity case, man. Let's be honest, man. Even me, like we cut the guy. And I don't want this to be a personal attack, but the case study's not strong enough. I actually will say for Kiwior, I think our fans were very harsh when we went away at the Etihad. He had a good game. He got turned once by Bernardo Silva. He kind of messed up against Bayern Munich, but I don't think he was to blame necessarily. And I can't get onto you because I think you came into the team at the right time where we were just smashing teams up and down the country, but you weren't exactly tested. And unpopular opinion, I know you're not a left back. I know you're not a left back. But that's no excuse not to be switched on. And I think the problem with Kiwior is, I don't want to get personal, but one thing I'll say Zinchenko has over you is he kind of believes in himself. Like, he'll make a mistake and go again. Kiwior, it's like you're good at everything, but you're a bit. Sometimes you just have to say we hit a dud here. Really, he has done well in big games, but let's go, man. Back to Italy, lad.
Yeah, I think.
But go on. You said you was turning off Kiwior. I love this.
I think we can get what we paid for him. I do and that's fine. You have a look at a talent, they come in, doesn't work out, and that's okay. Not even Pep Guardiola gets it right every single time. So it's absolutely fine.
Look at Nunes at City.
Yeah, it happens. Of course it happens. But I think I just think with Kiwior, it's getting to a point where he feels too limited to be an R back, and it does. You were kind of alluding to it there. If you look at Calafiori and Saliba and Gabriel and White and even Timber, there is an aura and a presence and a kind of a belief in themselves that as you were alluding to, I think that's the way of putting it. I said this a while ago on X and got coated for it, but I think
I know what you're going to say. It was during the Euros, isn't it?
Yeah, he just doesn't look like he doesn't show his personality on the field. And I don't. And people will say, "Oh, why do you care about someone's personality?" No. If honestly, you could leave the training ground and not say a word. I don't care. You don't need to talk to the media. You don't need to be coming on podcast. I don't care. What I care about is when you're on the pitch, do I believe you're showing yourself? And I don't think
exactly. And I'm with you with that.
That's
man.
when I say your personality is translated to the pitch. I don't care. I'm not caring about it because of I care about it. I care about it because it translates here.
But you should know better, man. Twitter is not the place or X better. Yeah, it's not the place for logic. People will take what you said, remix it, and go left with it. Like, I like Kiwior, but realistically, like kind of what you said about us having a bloated squad till January, I'm on that, because I think, I know Zinchenko and Kiwior, they wouldn't necessarily be happy about not being played and whatnot, but I don't care. If we're trying to be a big club, we need numbers. So I'm on that. Equally, if we need to bring money in, I'm on that as well. I understand if Kiwior wants to leave, and I think, with Kiwior, we've got a decision to make. Calafiori's bad news for you. I think the only one you're ahead of, honestly, in my heart, in the left back options is probably Tierney. And then I think you and Zinchenko's a bit of a toss-up. I think if it's a game where we have to be a bit more solid defensively, naturally Kiwior's going to be there. So it's a technical one. And in Mikel Arteta's heart, you could argue, is Kiwior, how high does Kiwior rank in the left centre half options? Because Gabriel, forget about it. Saliba show for France, he could play there. Tomiyasu could play there. Timber, fair enough, it's due to bodies and whatnot, but he's played centre half in pre-season and had a season with that at Ajax. I know people will see this as a crusade of mine against Kiwior, but I honestly do like him. I don't think he's good enough. I haven't necessarily always been convinced. And even going back to, Kiwior, and people say he's not a left back, which he isn't. When he signed for this club, people were making a song and dance about him playing in midfield. Now, if we don't get hung up on positions, that tells me there's an adaptability and an intelligence of you not to be in certain situations. So there's an issue there at left back. How far does the left back rumors go? And I also believe that regardless of where you're playing, if you're struggling for minutes, go play, man. Just play and lock it down. We don't know. Timber has never said, to me anyways, where he wants to play. He might say, I see myself as a centre half. I see myself as a right back, a left back, and the other players the same. Calafiori the same. But they're going to play and excel. And I just feel it is what it is in that. I don't want to miss out on talking about Calafiori, but what do you make of Calafiori, man? As you said earlier, like, we've come a long way defensively, bro. Like, I don't even want to trigger PTSD about the crap defenders we've had, but many people will be happy with just Calafiori, with just Gabriel, with just Saliba, with just Timber, with just Benjamin White, with just Tomiyasu. We're loving it, man. Defense wins titles. We've got that. Now we need some attackers to win games. But talk to me about Calafiori, man.
We are unbelievable. Can I answer you after I open my window? I'm very
Go on, man. Go on. Go do your thing, man. We need all your thoughts. Go get comfortable, man. But yeah, be back in a second, people. But yeah, Calafiori's the thing of dreams, man. For me, anyways, as well, while we entertain before he sits down, is the way the Italian legends speak about him, the way Italian fans are going mad. Obviously, what he did for Bologna, as well as obviously, for in the Euros. I'm happy with Calafiori, man. It's genuine centre half option, genuine left back option. But let's hear Alex's thoughts, man.
I couldn't hear what you were saying because you're on my headphones, but I'm sure it was.
Nah, it's calm. It's calm. I was doing Declan Rice duties.
Calafiori. I think the exciting part for me, you can't fool people. He believes in himself, and you can see Did you see the interview when he's like,
"Yep,
okay, I came here to play."
Yeah, bossy.
And you're just like, "Yep, all right."
And you don't want me to rate Kiwior. This is what we're doing. Like, this is what guys are on.
Yeah, and it's not personal. It's just like, okay, what is going to get the job done? And Mikel said it was interesting. He mentioned about part of the reasoning of this is how many minutes Saliba played. So I'm wondering whether he's going to play a more sort of central centre back thing than maybe we've necessarily anticipated. I think he'll get minutes at left back. I think at the start, I imagine he'll be in a number of different positions, but I do think he'll nail down a position at some point. I think he's top. I mean, in terms of his ability to drive forward, sometimes he can overstretch himself a little bit, but that bravery to do that, the personality he shows, is chalk and cheese with Kiwior. He's brilliant 1v1. He's got the height. I don't know if he's the world's best overlapper, but I'm interested in seeing him there. I think he's just a brilliant addition. I think he's someone who, when you look at certain play, the whole thing with the Invincibles, it's like when you look at them in the tunnel, and people would say I think even Mikel said because he must have played against the Invincibles early doors.
Games are won and lost in the tunnel,
sort of maybe the season after when he joined Everton. I can't remember what it was, but I think he said you look at them and you go, and just imagine being in the Emirates tunnel, hearing the noise, and looking to your left, and you see Saliba, Gabriel, Calafiori, and White, and you're a centre. You go,
and then you just see Declan Rice walk past,
and you go.
So if you're even lucky enough to go 1v1 with our defenders, we dreamed of this, bro.
We dreamed of this, and then you look at the midfield. Is it Rice? Rice, Merino.
You're seeing Odegaard doing all of this.
The best jeweler in the world, it literally by numbers in terms of Mikel Merino. And obviously Rice and Odegaard, who are unbelievable. And then if we just sign that one player in the forward areas,
that close, man,
mate,
we're flirting with something. Well, we've got something special, but we're flirting with it. And for me, it used to be a dream. Now it's not a reality yet, but it's becoming a reality. And me and you have spoken about this before. I genuinely believe in the last 2 years, take nothing away from Manchester City. At the end of the day, they won the leagues. But I think the most positive thing is, although we're not Manchester City, and maybe if we played City 10 times, they might win 5, we might win 5, or they'll win the majority. But the last 2 years, before we can point any fingers of what City done, it's all internally. So that is also, for me, that's the biggest positive, because we can sit here and say they're a juggernaut of a club and Pep Guardiola this and Haaland that. That's why. So if we can arrest these things, if we only had 4 to 6 more points last season, me and you are having very different conversations. We're probably still drunk at the parade, in August. Unfortunately, that wasn't a thing. So I'm happy with Calafiori, and I just feel, many people are talking about who's first choice, this, who's that. I think we need to be able to rest players. We need different game states and whatnot. What I would say is what Calafiori said and what you just echoed in that I'm here to play. You're here to play, Timber. Why? All of you. Give Arteta a good headache. When his wife wants to have another child or do some love making, he can't, because he's not focused. He's thinking about Saturday. I want these good problems. I've prayed for this. We've come a long way. Long way. Bro.
How long before Calafiori is married, by the way? I'll take
2 minutes. I'll give it 2 minutes. I give it 2 minutes, man. Arteta seems to be a bit of a godfather in that, even Partey settled down and having kids and whatnot. On that as well, because I keep saying we're going to speak about Moreno. What do you think of Moreno, man? What do you think of the signing? What do you think of how he ties into the club? Let me have all your thoughts, bro.
The child in me wants to answer. I think it was a good left back for Liverpool, but I'm gonna move forward.
You're childish.
That's such a a year 9 response, isn't it?
Well, literally, man. Grow up, man.
Grow up. I think. Look, I think Mikel is. Look, the dual numbers are really exciting. I think he'll be able to knit things together on the left-hand side in the way that Xhaka did, in terms of rotating out wide, in terms of the progressive passes, in terms of sort of allowing Martinelli inside, allowing Calafiori now inside, and possibly Timber as well. the height is really exciting. I think it gives us more on the set pieces. He's not the world's best midfielder.
No.
So to me, I've said this is like a hindsight signing. If we go and do what we need to do in the forward areas, then you look back at that and you go, okay, well, if the third pillar midfielder, if Jamal Musiala or Frankie De Jong or whoever your third pillar midfielder alongside Rice and Odegaard is, crossing everything, right? If they aren't available till summer 2025, then you need to do something. That's my whole point in the forward areas, isn't it? You need to do something, and this is a brilliant something. This is a player who I think is probably undervalued. Is probably more like a 50, 60 million pound midfielder at his height, who is a year left on the deal, and you can get him cheaper, who's experienced, who comes in, who fills the gap, who I do worry about him stamina-wise. I don't know if he's got the most quality in the final third. I don't know if he's not going to raise the level other than in the dual capacity and in the air. As in on the ground, I don't see as, oh my goodness me, we're playing a completely different.
He'll be a dream for the set piece coach, man.
Different brand of football, but yeah, Jova's going to love him. He raises levels there. But yeah, for me, it's a hindsight signing. It's if we go and get the level raiser, because we've got a bit of a level raise in the defense, we've got a smaller level raise in midfield. If we can get a proper level raiser in attack, Merino looks really, really good. And I think also then you look at the midfield options and you go, you could start. You basically have a sort of, Rice and Odegaard as the pillars, and then you have Merino, Havertz, Jorginho, Partey, Marcus.
Who did you say? Kai? Stay up front, bro.
Wanyeri, so I think you can mix and match things. I think he's someone who is a nice all-round player. He also, the final thing I'll say is he has, I think people will be shocked. I watched a game of him against Cadiz or something. Basically, Sociedad have Sociedad. Now I'm mispronouncing Sociedad.
Not me having a bit of pronunciation. That's crazy.
Moreno and Sociedad. You can go watch like some of their full games on YouTube. I did because I'm a nerd. And his ability to receive in the pocket, I think and immediately get out of his feet and play a ball forward, I think we're going to be quite shocked by. He can get a ball out of his feet very, very quickly and move it forward. So it's a good signing. Is it? Yeah. Does it change our world? No. But I think if we do that in the forward areas, as I say, we'll be very, very happy with it. It'll be one of those, I said this yesterday and I stand by it. It'll be one of those that, Arsenal fans who tweet like, oh, so-and-so was brilliant, so underrated today, so underrated, because they weren't like the star, but they had a really good performance. It's always Gabriel. For the last season, it was like Gabriel today, man. The media won't listen, but
Nah, it needs to. I'm with that as well. I'm one of them because it took me a while. I will never forgive Arsenal fans for saying Pablo Mari is better than Gabriel. I've been through the trenches with Gabriel, and it's nice.
Who said that?
I promise you. You could go through my YouTube vids. You could go on Twitter. I promise you, some fans had that kind of motion around him, and he had that whole bozo gene. It's taken him 12 months to get a chant as well. I'm happy that Gabriel finally gets the clout that he deserves. But sticking on Moreno, you're bang on the money, man. I think, he's not a sexy sign. It's not a blockbuster one in terms of Declan Rice. But if you go through the City team, the vast majority of them are sexy signings. But at times, people wasn't convinced on John Stones. People weren't like batting an eyelid about the likes of Ake. Rodri was a quality. Exactly. Rodri was quality at Atletico, but he wasn't held in disregard. If you raise the floor, then naturally you've got a better squad. And as you said there, I don't go as far as some people saying it's outsmart in the market and that, they've let the contract go down. We're getting him. I think he's durable. He played over 40 odd times. That's something we can't really bet on with Thomas Partey. So I don't know if he starts the season as first choice, or because of that and being able to rest Partey, naturally there's that. Obviously he's able to play as an 8 and a 6. You look at the Sociedad system where if we were really scouting Zubamendi, we have to know all about him. And you look at what he's done for Spain. He's played in a couple of different countries, so there's an element of adaptability. He's shown he can play a lot of multifunctional roles. I am keen to see what that means for Declan Rice, because Arteta, you never know, he might put a left foot on the right hand side and keep Rice over there. But you'd imagine Rice moves over to the right-hand side and obviously solidifies what we've got there with those options. And I do wonder, just, in total, how Moreno will play. Will he be an 8 or will he be a 6? Or will we do, according to the game, different kind of things? But as you said there, I think, provided you do everything, it's a smart addition. We've also been linked with Fabian Ruiz. Now, fair enough, those rumours aren't exactly as credible. It doesn't seem like there's as much legs to it. But would you take Fabian Ruiz? Because I would take both of them. And I think Fabian Ruiz, assuming he played in a kind of Xhaka role we saw in the last 2 years, I don't think it would be amazing, but I don't think it'd be terrible. And if it is a loan, I'm not going to say no.
I think now with San Marino, I can't see that because I think Ruiz
Exactly.
kind of likes the same position. So I can't see that happen. I mean, look, who knows? Maybe Marino's going to be using a different role, but I can't see that personally.
I'm with you, man. My last question for you then is, I'm sure you've been asked this. Cheeto will be Martin to Man United, man. I've got nothing to say on it, so we're going to close up with your thoughts. I'm done now.
Sack Edu. Sack Arteta.
He's being sarcastic, people. You know how the internet is.
Sack the Cronkies. If you offer a guy who hasn't even played U21 football £30,000 a week.
Nice for some, isn't it? Not bad. Nice for some, isn't it? Like 30 grand a week.
Look, mate, imagine. I literally saw that was. When people say, "Oh, money wouldn't fix your," but yes, it would.
Yes, it will. Yes, it
I'm
will.
sorry, £30,000 a week would change my life. That would be
exactly £30,000 a week. I don't know how to act, man. That would be the beginning of the end for me, really.
I'd send you 10 grand on PayPal straight. Just anyone wants some money, I'll give it to you straight away.
I'll be tweeting money's not happiness. I'll be one of them. Like money's not everything. I'll be one of the viewers, man.
At the top, you'd be tweeting.
Yeah. Slowly at the top.
I see some of your tweets sometimes. You get in your feelings like quite late at night.
Nah, I don't know about in my feelings. Whoa. Stoic.
Retweeting like Carl Jung quotes and stuff.
Do you know what it is? It comes on my algorithm, and I just think that's a pretty cool thing to say. Let me retweet. Nah. When my ex broke my heart, I ain't got feelings no more, broski.
Okay, sure.
I can't believe you threw me under a bus like that.
There was a Carl Jung quote which I actually used, which I quite like. It was. I think if you can see the path ahead of you, you're probably on someone else's path or something like that. And I was like,
yeah. It was. That sounds wavy, man. People think you're smart if you retweet that.
Like, we need to have a chat, mate. Is everything right?
Dude, this guy, you're a twat, man. And on that note, man, let people know where they can. Let people know where they can find you, man. Let people know when your videos are coming out, man.
The Different Knock on YouTube, and you can find me on Twitter at AM and also on the Canon podcast.
You heard where to follow people. Again, if you're too lazy, I'm sure by the time this video comes out, the Different Knocks YouTube account is going to be in the title. So make sure you hit that. Check out the sister and brother kind of podcast he's got going. Alex, it's always a pleasure, man. We got to do this before the season starts. But yeah, with people, we've spoken about a bunch of stuff. I'm pretty sure you lot disagree with a lot of what we said. I'm sure you've agreed with what we said. Football's subjective. So don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Alex, let me let you get on with your day. People, one love for tuning in. Make sure you're following, subscribing, all that good stuff. And on that note, if we need somebody better than Kiwior, I know who we should get, man.
Against this right back, Charlie.